I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
There is a secret beside me. Where it sits, I can't tell. Will you hold the secret with me? Or will you be the key?
Warning. This video production contains information which has been, for various reasons, hidden from you by various groups who benefit from your ignorance, and as this information will change the way you look at the government, many will not like it. This information will show that you are rich, and thus harder to govern. In fact, their ability to govern is based upon you not knowing this information. It is not the legal advice of a lawyer and is presented for educational, informational, entertainment, and peaceful, positive social change purposes only.
You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the
Sir,
rabbit
can I
hole
interview you for a little project I'm doing real quickly? I'm asking people questions concerning the Bill of Rights. It states that in the Bill of Rights you have the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person. Do you know what the security of the person is?
No,
How do you know you're getting it then if you don't know what it is?
I don't.
Have you heard of the Securities Exchange Commission?
Yes.
That is what they're referring to in the Securities Exchange Commission. The security of the person they're referring to is an actual physical document evidencing your share, your stock ownership in a corporation called Canada, registered under the Securities Exchange Commission. Just like any other stock in any other company, although you're not holding it, the federal government is acting as your fiduciary in holding it. You have the right to hold on to this stock certificate, collect the dividends directly. Any idea how much that stock certificate is worth? Over $10 million. It's a function of the value of Canada's resources divided by the number of people. The dividends would be about $400 grand a year minimum, and it would flow directly to you. Do you find this information kind of interesting?
Yes.
Are you aware that there are people out there claiming the right under Section 337 of the Criminal Code? You have the power to demand them to hold your property. If they don't give it to you immediately, they can go to jail for 14 years. And you've heard of the North American Union?
Yes.
And the Security Prosperity Partnership?
No.
That's where essentially U.S.-style security flows north, Canadian prosperity flows south. And they call that a trade. And it's an integration of Canada and the U.S. Would you like to stop that?
Sure.
There's essentially all they're doing is a corporate merger. And this corporate merger is in fact two corporations who are merging, and it's the shareholders who vote on it. If you were holding your own shares, not only would you be far, far richer than you are now, you could vote on any mergers, partnerships, or acquisitions and stop it. And that's what they're doing. They're operating under due process of law, but because you're not holding your own stock and the government is acting as your trustee, your fiduciary, they get to vote on your behalf. Do you think all of this information, don't you think the government should tell you about it?
Well, they should, but they don't want to.
What if I told you they do tell you? It's all in there in the Bill of Rights and the Criminal Code, but you actually have to read it.
I will read it.
Check it out and check out thinkfree.ca. It'll blow your mind. Thousands and thousands of people are using a claim of right to establish lawful excuse to disobey governments and courts and to seize the security of their person.
I'm going to make a note. Thinkfree.ca.
Thinkfree.ca. It'll change the way you look at the government, my friend. And I thank you for your time. Did you notice there's no wire on this microphone? Thanks for your time, buddy. Peace. The Bill of Rights states that every individual has the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person, and the enjoyment of property, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except by due process of law. This is what it's all about. They want the resources, the water, the lumber, the fish, and the people. Did I mention oil? Do you want to know what the term security of the person means?
Please.
The security of your person is an actual physical financial document. It is a stock certificate. It evidences your share of your country. Your birth certificate is evidence of the security of your person.
That's my receipt.
Yes. The red number is your tracking number. You can redeem the security for a stock certificate in a corporation called Canada. Do you know what this corporation is worth?
I have no idea.
Look at all the resources in Canada. Look
Money.
in the fat goods.
Especially nowadays.
Now divided by the number of people there.
I don't know Canada's population currently.
What if I told you? Whatever. Shut up, cameraman. What if I told you? What if I told you your security was worth at least $10 million, probably closer to 15, and it generates revenue?
I would be thrilled.
Have you heard of the North American Union?
No.
Have you heard of the Security Prosperity Partnership?
Security Prosperity Partnership.
They are trying. Have heard of this back there? Carrot Top, come on, step forward. Have you heard of the North American Union? What's your name?
Caleb.
Hi, Caleb. Rob, peace to you. Have you heard of the North American Union?
No.
No? Have you?
You mean like where they're trying to take down the border somewhat?
Yeah, and they're trying to incorporate.
Between Mexico, Canada, and
That's right. They're trying to incorporate all of this.
Yeah.
Essentially, all they're doing is a corporate merger. They collect the dividends, and they have the power to vote on the union that they're trying to create. What they're trying to create is a North American Union, and the Security Prosperity Partnership. That's where the security is going to flow from the south to up here, and the prosperity flows from the north to down there. So you're going to have American troops on that street corner.
Well, that sounds like a good idea.
You like that
I want
idea?
American troops fucking lining Ottawa. I want gunners on rooftops, and I want free fucking weapons giveaway everywhere else. AKs.
You better be funny or I gotta fight you, buddy. 'Cause I tell you, I'll have to fight you before that happens. I'd rather fight you than them up on there.
I want Humvees replacing every single one of these cars.
And you're being sarcastic, are you not? Sweet. Thinkfree.ca, dude, you're worth $10 million.
I know it sounds impossible, but what you just said actually makes sense.
Oh, wow. I really did think you just tonight.
Did you? And you played well with it, buddy. Thanks, guys. Good afternoon. Robert Menard here, your Woodshed correspondent with Woodshed News. This just in. People across Canada are awakening to the realization that they own stock in a corporation called Canada, and that they have a right to hold this stock, collect dividends, and vote on any partnerships, mergers, and unions. This knowledge is spreading like giggles at an orgy across the country, and appears to be setting the stage for serious change. Fee schedule. What the concept is, essentially, it's about operating under protest and duress. A fee schedule is for if you have to engage in an action, you can get paid for it. Now, suppose some cop comes to you and says, I have the power to arrest you because of this statute. Essentially, what he's saying is, because of the terms of this contract, I can force you to provide service to me. If, however, you're not a party to that contract, if you serve them notice stating, this body of words has nothing to do with me, it's your words, take them and go. Let's say someone comes to you, they have a gun. They say, I want you to sweep my floor, to wash my floor. I have a contract with you, and you have to do it. And you say, show me the contract. And they say, no, I don't have to, I've got a gun. I'm showing you the gun. The smart thing to do would be to provide the services that they're asking, but you tell them that you're providing these services under protest. What this means legally is that A, they're claiming there is a contract, you're questioning the validity or existence of it, and if within 3 days they cannot provide evidence of this contract, you get to create it yourself. Operating under a protest means you get to activate your fee schedule, and my fee schedule is $200 per hour just to talk to a cop. If they want to throw me in jail or put me through, bring charges against me, then they have to pay me $2,000 an hour. Now, I've been at this for about 7, 8 years now. I've been incarcerated more than a few times, as you can imagine. I get through it normally pretty easily. One time I was almost charged. They wanted to charge me with possession. And this is what they do. They have to, before they arrest you, put you in, they have to read you your rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Is that correct? So they will ask you, they'll say, according to the Charter, under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so that's where they're putting you, under this Constitution, and that Constitution is only for persons who have SIN numbers and who are government employees. They'll say, you are charged with this, do you understand? The term understand does not mean, do you know what I'm saying? It means, will you stand right here? Do you stand under? Do you grasp? Do you comprehend? Do you seize? Are you going to play tug of war with me concerning these charges? When they read me that, I said, no. No, I don't understand. Well, what don't you understand? Maybe I'll explain it to you. What makes you think I don't know what you're saying, and are you saying I don't have a choice? Totally mystified this female cop. She didn't know what to do. And she said, well, fine then. I've read you your rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and at this point, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand? At that point, with the second question, even a no, any response whatsoever, is an acceptance to go to court. So the first time they ask, you say no. Second time, I just sat there and didn't say anything.
Anything you say will be against you.
Well, they said that anything you say will be used against you in court. Anything you say. It's an offer. Say something and we go to court is essentially what they were saying. And it doesn't matter if it's yes or no. Just shut your mouth at that point. And I never ended up facing charges. They ended up being dismissed. Now, there are some people out there, teachers of this information, who will talk about commerce. And they will try to claim that everything is commerce, and if you're engaging in commerce, therefore, they have power and control over you. What they have done is they've created a framework, and if you operate within their framework and engage in commerce, you can enjoy limited liability within their framework. Let's say I'm having a party, and I say, come to my party and you can dance. Does this mean that you can't dance unless you come to my party? If you're in your yard dancing, I can come and stop you from dancing because you're not at my party? Of course not. Now, commerce is... The reason it is taxable, and commerce can be taxable, is because there must be the potential for harm. Now, what is commerce? Who here knows what commerce is defined as legally?
War.
No. No.
Buy and sell.
Yes, to buy and sell. It is not just to buy. It is not just to sell. It is not buy or sell, and that's what a lot of people want you to believe. Because you go to the store, you bought something, they sold something, therefore the two of you engaged in commerce. That's bull. Neither of you engaged in commerce. If you plant a seed, say, if you plant some wheat, and you grow wheat, and you then collect that wheat, you take it to market, and you sell it. Have you engaged in commerce? No. You grew and sell. You did not buy and sell. If you then buy that wheat, and you use that wheat and you mill it, so that now you have flour, and you sell the flour. You bought the wheat, sell the flour. Have you engaged in commerce? No. Commerce is two steps, buy and sell, not buy and do something else and then sell. You are adding value to it, and that added value means you are not engaging in pure commerce. The same as if someone takes the flour, turns it into bread, and sells the bread. Again, value has been added, and therefore it is not commerce. What about, though, if you live in a small village? You have someone growing wheat, someone milling flour, someone baking bread, everyone's happy. When some guy comes and he's got a lot of money, he buys up all the wheat, and all he does is buy it, and he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't mill it, he doesn't bake bread. Finally, everyone's starving. The guy says, fine, I'll sell my wheat now at a huge markup. All he has done is bought and sold and made a profit. That's commerce. That is why they can tax it, because it has the immense potential for harm. The guy with all the money will end up owning you. That's why it's taxable. That's why as a community you could say, okay, you want to do that, that's fine, but we get a portion of that. If you start looking at these words and look at them very carefully and do not operate excuse me, on assumptions. The assumption, and for them to believe that, what they do is they take the word and they want you to believe it means or. And or are not the same thing. I learned that at a very young age in a brothel. Just teasing. Now, there are three basic things. What we want to do is we want to achieve a higher level of authority and power over ourselves, over our reality. Is this not correct? We want greater control. We want greater freedom. How do we do it? Look to the teachings of Frank, what's his name? The guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz. How did she end up getting home? 3 simple little clicks of her heels, bang, she was home. This is what we have to do. For the first click of your heel, you have to use your heart. Your brain, if that's all you use, is going to get you in a lot of trouble. If, however, you bring your heart and then apply your brain as well, you will start seeing things that you otherwise would miss. Use your heart before you use your head. That's click number 1. Click number 2 is probably the most difficult one for everyone to accept. What you have to do, you've been deceived, have you not? Did anyone tell you about the security of the person? Tell you you were worth $10 million, you had a right to it? Did anyone tell you that you weren't a person, that you were an individual? No one told you any of these things. So you have been deceived. Are we in agreement there? Yes. You have to accept fully and completely responsibility for allowing yourself to have been deceived. You might want to blame it on the other people. Keep doing that. You're never going to find your power. If you want complete power over your future, you need to have that power in the present, and that means accepting responsibility for the past. You went and you applied, you signed an application without ever looking up what the meaning and the implications of that word was. Whose fault is that? There's a maxim in law that states, let he who would be deceived. If you do not want to engage in your own due diligence, it's on you, not on them. Your ignorance, your deception rests on 3 things. Every deception rests and requires these 3 things. One of them is ignorance, laziness, and greed. Those are the 3 things that every deceiver relies on. You were greedy for your driver's license, and therefore you did not even look at whether or not you needed your license. You were greedy for benefits, so you went and you got those. You were too lazy to do the due diligence and read the words, and you were, well, it was all on you, essentially. If you want power over your future, stop putting it on other people and accept fully and completely responsibility for your own present reality, for what happened to you in the past, and that's the tough part, I know, and the power that you want in the future will come to you. You will never have power in the future if you cannot accept that you had power in the past and you didn't use it properly. It doesn't just come at some magic time. You've always had it, you just haven't been using it. The final one, the 3rd step, is to accept that we have duties as human beings. You have a duty of compassion to your fellow man above all else, as far as I'm concerned. If you are engaging, if you're following that, then you are going to have more control over your reality because, and I'll just share a little story with you. A guy went into court. He was charged with driving without a license. He claimed he was traveling, exercising his common law rights. He was going to go into court. We're going to lower that a bit. He was going to go into court and argue that he had a right to do what he was doing. I told him, no, don't argue that you have a right. Infants have rights. An infant has a right to a teat. Hello. There we go. Adolescents, they have freedoms, and they want you to argue about your rights and your freedoms all the time. All you end up doing, sounding like, is either an infant or a teenager. What's that cop in there arguing about? His duty. His duty to enforce his statute. He wins every time. Duties always trump rights. Duties, actually, they're the seed from which the rights are the fruit that they grow from. So I told this guy, go in there and don't argue about your rights. Argue about that you were engaging, you were fulfilling your duty. Well, what's my duty? Your duty is to ensure that this right still exists for future generations, and therefore you are fulfilling your duty by exercising your right. He went into court, he told the judge that. He said when he told the judge that, got a big smile from the judge started liking him, and the prosecutor hung her head. He ended up winning, and the judge ended up finding for him, and they didn't say, yes, you have a right, but no, you're not guilty of this offense because you have a color of right, and it's apparent to me that you do truly believe that what you're doing is proper and for a good reason. And it's not then the issue isn't about whether or not you have that right, but whether or not you think you have that right. And there's a very big difference. These are the things you got to do. You have to use your heart, accept responsibility for your reality, and then accept that it is the fulfillment of your duties that's going to generate the reality that you seek. And I know a lot of it, if you've never heard this, it sounds amazing. Eh? You're thinking to yourself, it can't be that easy, it couldn't be that easy. But their deception is to take which is easy and make it seem very complicated, very difficult. And that's how they get you running around in the forest of deception looking for a little garden of truth. If you do not claim your right to something, you might have that right, or it might be potentially available, but it's not actually available to you, and they will come down on you. We've had a lot of wins along this lines. We have one guy, remittances. If you check out your income tax form, at the bottom they always send you a remittance. And they say, detach this portion, send it back with your payment. What they want you to do is take this remittance and send them a check for the value of the remittance. But if you look up the definition of the word remittance, you know what you find? A specie of money sent by one party to another, from one merchant to another. That's why they want that original back. That original is a security interest. It has value. It has the value that they put on it. It might be worth $17,000, whatever. But what they want you to do is send back this remittance and a check. And now what you're doing is you're not sending them $17,000. You're sending them $34,000. Is it 34? Yeah. $34,000, and you're paying them $17,000 to administer this security for you because you haven't done it yourself. I told this to one guy. He got a remittance for $17,000. He went and he deposited it into the bank through the electronic teller. He did that on a weekend, and he got his receipt for it. Went back in on Monday and said, "Where's the 17 grand in my account?" You can't do that. He didn't put money. He pulled up the dictionary. He had all his ducks in a row. He showed them, "No, look, they sent me a remittance. Remittance is money. You're a bank. This is the Bank Act. I deposited. Here's my evidence. Give me my $17,000 right now." They ended up saying, "Well, we're going to call the cops. Go ahead and do it." "I'm not doing any fraud. You are." They ended up calling the cops. Cops came in, looked at it. "No, we're not touching this." And they specifically asked him, did he have a claim of right in play? And he told them he had. The bank paid him $17,000. They ended up honoring this. No one can create a liability upon you without having remedy available as well. If a judge gives you an order, or go to a restaurant, order a steak, and see what happens if you refuse the bill. You're going to get arrested. It's fraud. Every order creates a liability. Liabilities must generate remedy. That remedy is your bill. If you're in court and the judge says, "I'm giving you an order," in England this happened where a guy was facing charges for, I think it was municipal taxes or something along those lines, and he's in front of 3 judges, he's trying to play the game, and they ended up giving him an order. He said, "Is that an order?" "Yes, it is." "Okay, fine, you're now liable for a bill." They perked right up at that. "Get out, just get out. We want you out of here right now. Well, you'll be charged with contempt of court." He ended up leaving court. Nothing on the books about this. No order has ever been placed upon him. Robert Menard here, your Woodshed News correspondent. According to notices and claims published by the Freeman Society of Canada in the Canada Gazette, Canada will soon be getting a new national force of peace officers.
Called the Canada Common Corps of Peace Officers, this new highly trained force will be empowered as peace officers only and not as policy enforcement officers. Drawing members from all walks of life, these armed peace officers will be empowered to investigate, arrest, and charge anyone found breaking the Criminal Code of Canada. Concentrating on existing police officers, judges, politicians, and lawyers, this new force, affectionately called C3PO, will hopefully help put an end to the rampant negligence and intimidation to which Canadians are being subjected. By being better educated in the law, these new peace officers will be able and willing to distinguish between a person and an individual, a statute and the law, a geographical area and a corporation with a similar sounding name, de facto and de jure, and thus will not be as likely to act with ignorance towards the Bill of Rights and the Criminal Code of Canada, while claiming the right to enforce laws which are in fact merely corporate policies restricted in their applicability. According to a spokesman for the Freeman Society of Canada, the days of freemen being deceased and detained by ignorant policy enforcement officers is over, as we will be in a position to arrest and charge those who, due to their own ignorance and by color of law, interfere with our enjoyment of our lawfully claimed rights. Routine traffic stops may in fact be our undercover operatives investigating existing policy enforcement revenue collectors who think that all automobiles are motor vehicles and all individuals are persons, or use fraud, extortion, intimidation, or other criminal acts in the application of corporate policies. The Association of Canadian Police Chiefs had no comment. This has been a Woodshed News breaking report.
Mix. I'm Irish and I'm French and I'm Scottish. That means when I'm sober enough to make love, there's no way I'm going to pay for it. Tell you a little bit more about myself. What can I tell you? I don't want to be too personal. I have hemorrhoids. That's not the funny part. Hemorrhoids come in two varieties too, eh? They're like belly buttons, because they come in two varieties, innies and outies. I have the outies. I'm happy about that because they're a lot easier to scratch in a crowded elevator. I went to a doctor for this problem. Did you know there are doctors who will study this? They go to medical school for years just to work on the bum. I couldn't believe that. I went to this doctor, a proctologist. Wouldn't you know it? He only had one arm. A one-arm proctologist. He did a half-assed job. That'd be pretty weird, eh? A one-arm proctologist. Imagine going to like a support group for amputees. Stand up, tell us your name, your occupation, and how you lost your arm. Yeah, you first. Yeah, I'm Hank. I'm a farmer. There was this horrible combine accident. I lost my arm, but I saved that calf. Good for you. Next. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a fireman. Burning beam fell on my arm. I lost my arm, but I saved that baby. Good for you. Next. Hi, I'm Herbert. I'm a proctologist. Stop right there, Herbert. Herbert would be like, but I saved the Rolex. Yeah, it's weird. Medical, and remember a few years back, all the doctors, what were they scaring you with? SARS. Remember that? What's it in French? SARS. In English, I looked it up. You know what it stands for? Severe acute medical or severe acute respiratory syndrome. I wasn't sure what acute meant. I knew what everything else meant, so I looked up the word acute in a medical dictionary. You know what it said? Severe. Severe respiratory syndrome. I realized right then, severe acute, that's the medical equivalent of super duper. Professionals need to use words that make them look smarter than they really are. Because if you went to a doctor and you said, what's wrong with me? And he said, you have super duper lung owie. Now take this pill, I got it from Chuck down the corner and pay me money. You're not going to do what he says. But when they start making up their own words, and all professions use it, either you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, they all use the same little trick where they expand the language so that it's something that you don't think you can understand. Studying the law for a while now, and I have looked and studied what is going on and what our remedy is, and I think I know where the problem starts. If you want to figure out what your remedy is, first we have to figure out how did this problem start. It started when we were kids. Your parents teach you lies right from the get-go. Are there any parents here? I have this theory, parents are the stupidest people on the planet. Any parents here again? It's not that you're stupid because you're a parent. It's becoming a parent makes you stupid. Parents always ask stupid things. Like, do you want a spanking? Well, I was going to go play Tonka with Jimmy, but yeah, we can squeeze in a quick one. Parents say things like, I'll give you something to cry about, like the spanking wasn't good enough. I remember the first time my dad asked me, do you want a spanking? And you know what? I remember my first spanking. I didn't like it, not even a little bit. And that's really surprising when you look at my present-day habits. So he said, do you want a first spanking? I said, this is never going to happen again. And I got a pretty good brain even as a little kid, so I thought about it. Next time my dad asked me, do you want a spanking? I looked him right in the eye, dropped my pants, started playing with my penis, said, yes, please, Big Daddy. Oh, the spankings tapered right off from there, I can tell you. The reason is they teach us lies. When we're growing up, what's the big lie they teach you all right off the bat? Santa Claus, that's it, thank you very much. Santa Claus, the big lie. Folks, Santa Claus is a 5,000-year-old pagan tradition. Early Christianity adopted it out of convenience, and I'm going to prove it by linking two seemingly unrelated facts. First of all, what are the three colors of Christmas? Red, white, and green. Now remember that. It's going to be important. What are the names of his last two reindeer? Not so easy now, is it? Donner and Blitzen, that's right. Red, white, and green, Donner and Blitzen. Germanic words, Donner and Blitzen, for what? Thunder and lightning. When do you get thunder and lightning? The rainy season. What happens during the rainy season? Things grow. What kind of things? Things that need a lot of moisture and very little sunlight, like, mushrooms. What color are the most powerful psychoactive mushrooms known to man? Red and white. Where do they grow? In green moss-covered deadfall. That's right, folks. Santa Claus is nothing more than a 5,000-year-old mushroom-induced hallucination. And if you don't believe me, you go out when it's donnering and blitzening, find and ingest enough of these little red and white mushrooms, you just might see a big, fat, jolly elf flying across the sky in a sleigh being pulled by a bunch of, let's say, wingless reindeer. And it might just be the most natural and logical thing you see all night. You might be like, I ate way too. No, I'm okay. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't tell our kids about Santa Claus. It's a wonderful story. But when they're about 5 or 6 years of age, and they come up to you and say, Daddy, is there really a Santa Claus? Don't break their little hearts. Look them right in the eye and say, yes, son, there is. When he says, when can I see him, Daddy? You can say, about 5 minutes after eating this. I know it tastes like bark, son, but if you want to see Santa, you have to eat the soup. And we should stop there, right? We're dosing up our kids with hallucinogens. We should stop there. But do we know, in order to get your brain created and conditioned so that you can buy the bullshit when you're older, they then teach you tongue twisters. Tongue twisters that are going to twist up your brain, not your tongue. Tongue twisters like, so if Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, how many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? Don't answer, it's a trick question. Think about it. They're pickled peppers. They've already been picked. What is Peter doing? Repick and pre-pick prepackaged pickled peppers. Plus, Peter is supposed to be a piper. How can you be a piper and a pepper picker? You can't. Plus, Peter, he only picked a peck. Who here knows what a peck is? Farmers? No farmers here? A peck. A peck is a quarter of a bushel. A quarter of 4 pecks, 1 bushel. 35 quarts in a bushel, 0.98 liters per quart. That means there's 8.809 liters per peck. Well, you can't do that in your heads? 8.809 liters of peppers, folks. We're talking great big round hollow fruit. They're not blueberries. A peck of pepper, a peck of blueberries, I could see someone working. A peck of peppers, that's a lazy prick picking. You know what I think? What if the whole thing should be changed? What if they're lying to us there? What if it should be something like, so if Pickled Peter, the part-time piper, picked a peck of potent peppers, how many potent peppers did Pickled Peter, the part-time piper, pick? See, now it makes sense. And then they hit you with woodchuck. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck... Oh, don't even get me started there. Folks, chucking wood involves bending over at the waist, grasping small pieces of wood, tossing them to one side with a short swinging side-to-side motion of the arms. Thus, according to Mrs. Webster's son, who never had a date, is to chuck wood. First of all, folks, a woodchuck, they don't have the opposing thumb necessary to properly grasp anything. Secondly, a woodchuck shoulder blades, they are not articulated for side-to-side motion. It's front to back for the woodchuck. Digging a hole, I can buy that. Running from a fox, I'm there for you too. Chucking wood, you can walk right off. Yeah, and it's all about them using twisty words and great big lies, and that conditions you for the law society, and it conditions you for the court system that you're then going to have to face. I remember once, a little digression here, in high school. And that's why we're all here, eh? We want to figure out how to deal with the government. They want our energy, they want our money, they want more than we want to give, and we know we're not getting value for it. Where's the remedy? In high school, I had a pretty big mouth. Learned to run pretty good. There was this one bully, I don't want to mention his name because I haven't seen him for years, and Tim Perry probably forgets me anyways. But I remember I get off the bus once, and he's there with all of his friends. And he's like, oh, we're going to fight 3:15 in the playground behind the school. I'm going to kick your ass in. And the next period, I've got a great big knot in my belly. Eh? I was scared the whole time. I come out of class, and there he is with all his friends. Remember 3:15, and I was so mad, I just punched him right in the belly. Solar plexed him. He fell. It was a surprise. I went, run. I ran. The next period, I'm thinking, wow, this feels pretty good. That knot isn't in my belly anymore. I bet you it's in his. So I realized lunchtime comes, he's going to be looking for me. So I go to the library. I hide in the audio-visual room because we all know that audio-visual equipment is to a bully what kryptonite is to Superman. Bullies don't like audio-visual equipment for some reason. So I'm there, I'm hiding, I have my sandwich. I leave, and I'm trying to avoid the guy. I turn the corner, and there he is with his friends. And we were surprised, eh? There was a shock. So I went, boom! I kicked him right in the nuts. I ran. By this time, next period, I'm going, I think I found a strategy. I wait, and I get out of the last period, was French, or the second last period. I was in French class. So I told the teacher I had to go to the washroom. I get out early. I knew he was at shop class. I'm waiting for him outside the door. As soon as he came out, punched him right in the face, and I ran. 3 times he's been hit now. At 3:15, was he in the schoolyard ready to fight me? I have no idea. I was on the bus. I'm not fighting my opponent when and where he wants me. I'm not crazy. So the next morning, I realized I probably bit off a little bit more than I can chew. He's going to be gunning for me. So I had one of these little mini bats. They're little tiny bats that I got from Detroit Tiger Stadium. They used to give them away as gifts before they realized it wasn't a good idea to give billy clubs to angry fans in Detroit. So they stopped giving those, but I had one of those. I had it in my sleeve. I get off the bus. I'm thinking, there's Tim Perry's going to be there. He's going to be mad. He's nowhere to be found. I go around to the smoking section, there he is, and now instead of 10 friends, he only has 2. And I looked at him, I went, so are we on again today for 3:15? Didn't say anything. Folks, someone might be able to decide that they want to fight you. Don't give them the power to decide when, where, and how. In combat, whoever defines the battlefield parameters will win. Don't ever let them define it. If they want to take you to court over one issue, you make the issue bigger. Every time you make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and they are going to end up going, oh man, when does this stop?
Hello and good day. Robert Menard, your Woodshed News correspondent. Fraud charges are pending against a major charter bank after an extensive investigation initiated by Pavlo Papadakis after the bank tried to sue him on an outstanding student loan. The sharp-eyed and intelligent man noticed that the original liability-creating document was unaccounted for and possibly sold or otherwise discharged. After speaking with RCMP investigators, sufficient cause was seen by them for further investigation, which uncovered some unlawful and startling accounting and mortgaging practices, which involved the bank not only getting paid twice on its security, but creating the same security unlawfully and deceptively. Extensive prison sentences are likely.
Maybe there's some things happening here that I should become aware of.
Don't think for a moment that you're going to find answers from some man or woman when, in fact, all of the answers are in your own heart to begin with. That is where you have to really look. Now, for those of you who here has never seen Bursting Bubbles. No one? You haven't? Haven't seen The Magnificent Deception? No. Okay, quick little recap. In Bursting Bubbles, what I tried to teach was that you are not a person. Generally speaking, when we refer to a person, we're referring to the living, breathing human being. However, legally speaking, you are not a person, you have a person. It's like you are not your shirt, you're wearing a shirt. Your person is that legal subject or substance of which the rights and duties are attributes. It exists in association with you, and it is what allows the people in the government to govern you. Because they're never governing you, the human being, they're always governing your person. This person can only exist in association with you if you consent to it, and therefore they can only govern you when you consent. It's a great big fat out that they gave you. The other thing we learned in Bursting Bubbles was that statutes are not laws. A statute is not a law. A law is something that you cannot get away from. A statute is something you can get away from, because a statute, when you look it up, it's the rules of a corporation. In The Magnificent Deception, the fundamental thing that I was trying to teach people is that your social insurance number means you are a government agent. You are employed by the federal government as a government agent. The courts rule that payment into a pension plan is evidence of employee status. Only employees pay into a pension plan. If you want to pay into the Canada pension plan, you need a social insurance number. They used to call it unemployment insurance. Now they call it employment insurance because they ensure you are always employed. If you go to the federal government and you ask them, what is this number? You know what they identify it as? An employee identification number. Where do you get your employee identification number? You go to Canada, Human Resources Canada. Believe it or not, what they have done is they have tricked everyone into becoming an employee of the federal government, and now the rules that are made just for employees of this corporation or of the federal government are applicable to you because of that reason. If you are not an employee of the corporation, how can these rules apply to you? That's one of their big tricks, is they got you all to become employees of the government. Now the government, if you do a little bit of research, look up on the Security Exchange Commission in New York. You will find that Canada is registered as a corporation. This corporation lists income tax payments as a stream of revenue for them, and they advertise this, they publish this information. If you imagine for a moment a temporary work agency, where you go in the morning and you sit there and they go, okay, we got a job for you, go to Jim's Construction and he's going to hire you. You go work for Jim's Construction, you have to give these people a little bit of money, don't you? Why? Because you're working as their agent. Same is true in the federal government. When you go and you give them your number, your social insurance number, and you work under that, you are being hired as an agent for the federal government or as an agent of the federal government, and it's the federal government providing that employer with these services. You've got every right in the world to say, I don't want to give you that number, I just want to engage in a contract with you. They don't want you doing this because it's all about control. And if I can trick you into being an employee instead of an owner, I get to rule you with the employee's rules. Imagine for a moment I write a book on the rules of hockey. I have not invented the game, I have not invented the rules, but all I did was I codified all of these previously existing rules, and I put it in a book called Rob's Rules of Hockey. And I see you playing hockey. Can I come up and say, you're following my rules, therefore I'm in charge of you? No. The rules existed previously. The same is true with the Criminal Code of Canada. If you distinguish very carefully, read the Criminal Code, you will find that there are sections that refer to everyone who. And then there are other sections where it's dealing with, say, firearms or Controlled Drug Substance Act or the Income Tax Act. It says any person who. So they distinguish between anyone or everyone and any person. Those sections that deal with everyone, you will always find there is a component of harm. You have to either harm another human being, damage property, or use some form of fraud in your contracts. Those sections will always apply to you, but they also apply to the government. The other sections, every person, you're going to be able to walk away from that, say, I'm no longer a person. Now, these sections in the Criminal Code that refer to everyone, they refer to the government too. And these are the tools that you will use to bind the government so that they can't act like bullies over your life. But you have to be able to distinguish between these. There's a maxim in law that says, he who distinguishes well will learn well. If you can't distinguish between a person and an everyone, you are going to be lost in the forest. What we found, these are the key sections that I found in the Criminal Code of Canada, which will give you your remedy against the government and allow you to say no. The first one, one of the most important, is Section 15 of the Criminal Code. Who here knows what that says? No one? Yeah, well, not you, smartass. Section 15 refers to a de facto government and court. Now, two concepts you must recognize here. One is de facto, one is de jure. De jure means by law. De facto means by fact. Now, imagine an airplane. You get on an airplane, there's a pilot there. And he's got the uniform, a trained pilot. You're entering into an agreement. He is a de jure pilot. He has power over you, no doubt about it. Now, let's say the plane takes off. He has a heart attack. He dies. Some passenger comes in and starts flying the plane. He is piloting the plane, so he's the de facto pilot. But he is not hired by the airline, trained by the airline, supported and bonded. He is not the de jure pilot. That de facto pilot will have a certain amount of authority over you. You're not going to be able to tear down the plane while it's in flight. But nor can that de facto pilot claim that you have to stay on the plane if you have a parachute and you want to get off. You have an ability to say no to de facto. Section 15 states that nobody can be put in jail for saying yes or obeying a de facto government or court. Now, look at the way to examine this, and if you want to train your brain on how to look at this stuff so you can see what they're not saying, which is really where your remedy lies, I would suggest you get some law school admission tests, practice up on those. They'll increase your ability to analytical reasoning, logical analysis, and word comprehension. Section 15 says because this is here, you can't be thrown in jail for saying yes to the government. Now, if Section 15 wasn't there, people could be thrown in jail for saying yes to de facto courts and governments. Now, if you can be thrown in jail for saying yes, can you be thrown in jail for saying no? No. Of course not. Where the inclusion of one creates an exclusion of the other. So now they put the section here that says you cannot be thrown in jail for saying yes. But do they affect in any way your right to not be thrown in jail if you say no? No, they don't mention it. We have de facto governments, we have de facto courts, and we have the power to say no to it. And there is nothing in there that says if you say no, you're in trouble. That's Section 15. Section 38 and 39. To understand what a claim of right is and the use you can do with it, compare Section 38 and 39. It will tell you in one that if you don't have a claim of right, you are limited in what you can do to preserve and protect your property. Section 39 says that if you do have a claim of right, there's pretty much no limit to the amount of force that you can bring to protect your property, even against somebody who has a lawful right to it, like a cop enforcing a court order. If you are holding your property under a claim of right, you can stop anyone from taking it, and you can appoint anyone to protect your property with you. So what we've been doing, and this works wonderfully, we appoint the cops as our protectors of our property, so if they ever get an order to come and remove that property, they can say, sorry, I've already got an order contrary to that. Claim of right establishes that, Section 38 and 39 establish that a claim of right creates lawful excuse to engage in actions that otherwise you could not engage in. This gets important because when you go to Section 126 and 127 of the same criminal code, it talks about your liability if you disobey either the courts or the government. And what they do, they're very tricky with their words. It's kind of like if they were, hi, come on in, you didn't miss much. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, this think free. You're not a person, you have a person. Your sin means you're a government agent. You're late, government agents. I'll be picking on your wife later, because I'm pretty sure I can take you. Did I make you feel at home now? Section 126 and 127 tells you that you can go to jail for up to 2 years if you disobey courts or the government. But essentially what they're doing is they're trying to throw it out. If they were speaking, they'd be saying, anyone who, without lawful excuse, you'll go to jail for 2 years. They tell you that without lawful excuse you're liable, but if you have lawful excuse, you're not. If you have lawful excuse, you can disobey any court, any government official, you can disregard any statute, any bylaw, any order. And because of Section 38 and 39, we know that claim of right is a lawful excuse. Now, we tested this because Canada, New Zealand, and Australia very much the very similar situation. When I checked out the Crimes Act in New Zealand, 1961, and you can check it out there as well, they have almost the exact same section. But instead of saying without lawful excuse, it says without a claim of right. It's right there. We've had some huge wins with this. There was a young guy in New Zealand. What was happening, these corporations were coming in and they were offering a lot of money for a piece of property. People had been on this property, their family had been there for like 1,000 years, so they said, no, we don't want your money. But the municipality would then say, oh, your property is now worth more, you have to pay more in taxes. They couldn't afford the taxes, the municipality would kick them out, the corporation would come in and buy it for the lower price that they wanted to pay in the first place. It was a scam. So this one young guy, he ended up, he said, I'm not going to take this. 22-year-old Maori kid, he's got a wife and 2 kids. He went to what we would call crown land, common land, and he built a house. No permission, no permit, no license, no nothing. Now, the municipality did not like this. The property developers did not like this. They took him to court, dragged him into court. The judge ordered that he tear down his home. Within 30 days, he'd be back in court 30 days. If the home wasn't torn down, he was going to go to jail for up to 9 months. He didn't know what to do. He spoke to a friend I told him about how to use a claim of right, so he filed a claim of right, did not tear down his house. He went back into court, and the judge was pretty mad at him. He said, I understand that house is still standing. You better have a very good reason for disobeying this court. He said, as a matter of fact, I do. Here you go. Look, here's my claim of right. I'm holding my property under a claim of right as per the Crimes Act 1961. And the judge looks back a bit. He goes, here's a definition of theft according to the Crimes Act, and it's the removal of property without a claim of right. Show me your claim of right, Judge. And if you can't do that, let's accept that you're the one committing a theft. The judge immediately overturned his order, said that order is overturned, your property is held under a claim of right, and the guy is still living on that property to this day, and a whole bunch of people in New Zealand, all these Maoris, are holding their property now under a claim of right. They're just people using words. You are people, we're all equal, you can use words too, and you can take away that authority from them. This is what they don't want you to know. You can actually just say no to them. Somewhere along the lines, we lost it. When we were kids, when you were a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old child, you had what it takes to say, no, you are not the boss of me. But somewhere in high school, we've lost it so that now we're just, oh, everyone's the boss of me. The court, the government, every police officer. What happened so that we lost the ability to say, you're not the boss of me? That's what we have to get back. Now, the really exciting part about all this, and this has been working, I've had a number of huge wins. There was a guy by the name of, what was his name? Greg Platt, I think. He was a hunter on Vancouver Island. And the forestry guy came by, saw him hunting, said, do you have a permit? Do you have a license? He said, no. He goes, well, I'm going to take your gun. He goes, that's okay, I got 12 more. So, well, if I see you again, I'm going to take that gun too, and I'll just keep taking your guns. And the guy said, well, that'll work until you get down to my last one, then you're only taking bullets. They didn't like that too much. Went to the RCMP. The RCMP tactical squad came to his home. They busted him, arrested him, seized all of his guns. They had 12 guns. Arthur Menard, your Woodshed News correspondent. A low-key yet very popular grassroots movement is underway across Canada by people who consider themselves to be freemen. According to sections 126 and 127 of the Criminal Code of Canada, if one has lawful excuse, one may in fact disobey courts and governments. According to sections 38 and 39 of the Criminal Code of Canada, said lawful excuse is generated by way of an undisputed claim of right. Thousands of people across Canada are visiting figfree.ca to learn how to craft and serve a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right, thus freeing them completely from all statutory restrictions, obligations, and restraints. Please stay tuned for updates. He was growing some marijuana. They charged him with that, seized all of his property. He was facing like 12 charges from unregistered firearm, careless storage of firearms, growing marijuana, possession of marijuana, all sorts of stuff. So we served a notice of understanding and intent and a claim of right on these people. They ended up, they didn't know what to do, came back with an agreement and said, we want you to sign this agreement. So he showed it to me and he said, should I sign it? I said, I'd sign that pretty quick. So he signed it and he entered into an agreement with the provincial government, which essentially stated that if he was out in the bush hunting and he saw a forestry officer, he would just ignore him. He got back all of his equipment. The pot was gone, but he got back all of his grow-op, he got back all of his firearms, he got back all of his ammo, and he's out there to this day hunting, and the government doesn't try to do anything because they're just people using words, and those words have nothing to do with this man unless he accepts it, and he didn't. We have this power, and this is where it gets really interesting. Canada is a corporation as registered on the Securities Exchange Commission. Now, corporations all have shares. These shares, who do you think owns them? You do. We have the greatest claim to those shares. These shares are just like stocks and bonds. If you went and you invested in Microsoft, you would get a document evidencing stock ownership. You would be what is called a stockholder. Now, if you're leaving the country for a year or so, you can take your stock certificate and you can give it to someone you trust, and you can say, here, hold on to this for me. Now, you're the stock owner, but you're not the stockholder. The dividends will flow to the holder of the stock. If they have votes on whether or not there's going to be any mergers or acquisitions or unions or partnerships, it's the holder of the stock that gets to vote. Our stock is worth millions and millions of dollars. It's a function of the value of the country and its resources divided by the number of people in the country. Your stock is likely worth somewhere between $8 and $13 million. I read somewhere that a lady about 5 or 6 years ago went and got her stock redeemed, and she got $8 million for it. She wanted to cash in her stock, though, for the cash. You don't have to do that. Your birth certificate evidences two things. One is the existence of the stock or the share or the security. And the other one is that it evidences the trust relationship where you're not the holder, somebody else is. You have the power to hold that stock. Section 337 of the Criminal Code states that there's 5 aspects to it, but if you have a right to demand something from somebody who is in possession of your property, and they're in possession of it by virtue of their employment with the government, and you demand it and they fail to give it to you, they can go to jail for 14 years. You have the power to demand to hold on to your security, and it says so right in the Bill of Rights. Life, liberty, and the security of the person. That's how they hide it. They want you to think, oh, the protection of my person, or the protection of, I don't even know what it means, but it's an actual physical document that you can get hold of. If you held this document, the dividends would flow to you 4 times a year. We're probably talking about $80,000 to $150,000 every period coming right into your pocket. You have a right to use this money for anything that Canada is recognized as a human right by virtue of the fact that they're a signatory on a United Nations covenant. You have the right to use it for food, health care, housing, transportation, education, access to the courts, just about anything that you recognize as a fundamental human right and need. This is what the whole game is about. This is what they don't want you to realize, is that Canada is a landmass of enormous value. And this corporation has seized control of this landmass, but you are one of the share owners. You're not a holder. When they look at who here has heard of the North American Union and the Security Partnership Prosperity? Who here wants to stop those? This is, yeah, I'm with you there. Security and Partnership, or Security Prosperity Partnership. That's where American security comes north and Canadian prosperity goes south, and we end up tied up like this. They're trying to take our country. Now, when they do this, the only way they can do it lawfully is if they are acting with the power to vote. And that means they have to be holding your stock in trust. The moment you demand the return of your stock, they lose the ability to vote regardless of whether or not they give it to you. There's a maxim in equity that states that which ought to be done must be seen as having been done. If you demand your security and they don't give it to you immediately, and the next day they have a vote and they tried to say, oh, well, we were holding his shares, so we get to vote with that. No, sorry. The moment you demand it, they lose the power to vote, and all of these dividends must start flowing to you. That's what the whole big game is about. They want you to be a government agent, an employee of the corporation, so that these rules that compel only the employees of the corporation will apply to you, because then they can govern you and get you running ragged all over the place. They don't want you to be a stockholder, because then they don't get to play with the dividends. It's what it's all about. It's all about money. It's all about power and control, and this is how they have done it. They get to play with the stock, they get to play with the money, and when it comes time to the North American Union and the Security Partnership or Prosperity Partnership, the people who hold the stock will vote, and that's not you. Not until you make your demand under Section 337, hold on to your security, and then you can, when they start saying, okay, well, we're going to have a stockholder vote to decide whether or not we're going to have a North American Union, you can rise up and say, I vote no. And when all your friends start saying, well, how are you doing that? You can show them the actual stock certificate evidencing your share in Canada, show them the dividend check, and watch this spread like wildfire. Now, there's for a quick thing before we go, we're going to have a little break so we can change batteries, and I can have a smoke break. Yesterday, or a little while ago, someone was talking about what is commerce. Now, they do have certain claims and control over certain things. Let's imagine, or let's agree for a moment, that they do have the power to regulate and tax commerce. But if we never decide what is commerce, if we let them decide what it is, you're going to be taxing and regulating everything. Commerce is not what you likely think it is. Commerce is defined as to buy and sell. Now, they'll want you to think, oh, you went and you bought something, and therefore you engaged in commerce. Or you sold something, and therefore you engaged in commerce. And that's not the case. There is a big difference between the word and the word or. And these lawyers, they know the difference. And they use it. They know. They don't make mistakes like this. When they're talking about liability and who has the power to tax, they do not make mistakes, boy, I'll tell you that. If, and or. Commerce, in order for them to be able to tax it or regulate it, there must be a component of harm. They do not tax or regulate anything unless they can claim there's a potential for harm. Buying something, just buying something, you only took one step. Commerce is to buy and sell, 2 steps. If you grow something and you sell it, you've grown and sold. That's not commerce. If, let's say, there's a village, and in this village there is someone who knows how to grow wheat. So they grow wheat, but they don't know how to mill it. So they take it to someone who knows how to mill it. He mills it, but he don't know how to bake bread. So he takes the flour, gives it to a baker. The baker knows how to bake bread. The 3 of them working together, everyone gets to eat. No one bought and sold because they all took 3 steps, except for the grower. The miller, he bought flour or he bought wheat, then he milled it. He added value. And then he sold it. Not 2 steps, 3 steps. That's not commerce. The baker bought flour, added value, then sold it. 3 steps, not 2 steps. There is no harm there, but commerce is the buy and sell. Now imagine in this small town there's a guy with a lot of money. And when the wheat becomes available, he buys all the wheat. And he just sits on it, and he does nothing with it. He holds on to it until there's a greater artificial lack, and then he sells it for an obscene profit. 2 steps. He bought, he sold, added no value in between. That's where the potential for harm is. That's commerce. That can be regulated. That can be taxed. But if they get you thinking commerce is buy or sell, they will regulate every aspect of your life. And the trick is, they don't want to have to work for the bread. They don't want to have to grow the wheat, mill the flour, or bake the bread. They want bread with everyone else working while they can just sit back and say, oh, where's the honey now? The trick is to identify properly what these words mean, because if you don't, they will define the words for you, and they will always define them in a way that sees you paying them. All the time.
Getting some marijuana oil from somebody and put it on his skin cancer, and within 2 weeks it was gone. So he started getting more of it and giving it to all his friends with cancer, and they all started getting better, and so he started giving it away, and then the cops came and they arrested him because he was growing and trying to give away oil, and when he went to talk to his doctors and stuff, they all thought he was crazy, or they didn't want to hear it. They don't want to hear if there's a cure for anything. So anyway, leading into this, what we're working on, this thing called Remedy, one of the things that we're actually doing is giving away marijuana oil to people, and some other alternative therapies that the powers that be don't like us using. And we actually had a friend of ours go into a hospital yesterday. There's a 24-year-old guy with leukemia, and he's basically on his last leg, and so they went in there, they gave him some oil and one of these fancy watches here that I got, and actually more intense version of that, and they hooked him up to this machine, and they found out that his cancer was in fact a virus and a fungus and a bacteria. How shocking. So anyway, they started treating him. Within 10 minutes he had all his color back. He went from gray to normal looking. And today he got up and he walked around for the first time in like 4 months. So from yesterday. So and these guys are afraid that they're going to be shut down because they're helping people. And that's what happened with Rick Simpson, and it happens with anybody who actually tries to help out. They stop you. So one of my I'm actually really happy that they're bringing Codex in, because it will hopefully stand to wake some people up, because they're going to try to take everything from us. So we really need to wake up to what's going on. And so anyway, what I was going to go to is this place that we're going to open up hopefully soon. Is I want to have a big sign on the thing that says, "Which cure for cancer do you want?" And of course they won't like that, but it's okay. Codex Alimentaris or something. It's basically an act that's being developed in Europe, and they're going to bring it into all of the countries, all the corporations, and it's essentially completely restricting all alternative health care. One thing I heard was that, like, vitamin C, if you want vitamin C, you'll need to go get a prescription, and you only be able to get a 50-milligram pill. That'll be the biggest size of pill you'll be able to get, yeah. So, and it goes back to, like, what Rob was talking about, the guy, the hunter. He had like 12 charges against him, and they actually tried to stick one charge, and the only charge they tried to stick was him threatening the officer, because that's the only one in common law, because you can't threaten anybody. So that's the one they tried to, because all the other ones were all the fluffy laws that they have, and they didn't mean anything, but the one they actually tried to get to stick was the one that that was actually a threat, and is not right in common law, or shouldn't be. You know, we shouldn't allow people to threaten other people. So.
How did he handle that?
Well, yeah, they dismissed it all, though, after they went to court, and his name wasn't even on, and that was his girlfriend. I can't remember. He entered into an agreement with them. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, but they had his girlfriend, because when they did that, his girlfriend or his wife, she was in the house, and they came in saying, "Where are the handguns? Where are the handguns?" And they didn't have any handguns. He's a hunter. He's like, "I don't have handguns." And then they started saying to her, you know, they're like, "Where are the handguns?" And they're roughing her up a bit. And she's like, "We don't have any handguns." But they charged her with everything too. And we went to court for her. She wasn't even on the docket. After they did all her paperwork and they started asking questions, she wasn't even on it.
The paratroopers with guns, they don't care. And at that point,
absolutely,
they manufacture a crisis.
That may be true. However, the paratroopers with guns are bound by the Criminal Code of Canada, and as a soldier, we were told that unlawful orders can be disobeyed, should be disobeyed, and if we accepted unlawful orders, that we were liable for it. Also, now, let's bear in mind, according to the Bill of Rights and the Canadian people, our rights, we have a right to form our own police force. And that's what we're in the process of doing, is creating the Freeman Society of Canada, the Canadian Common Corps of Peace Officers, and these peace officers would be empowered as peace officers only. They would have no statute authority or no statutory enforcement authority, but they would be empowered to enforce the Criminal Code of Canada against existing cops, lawyers, judges, politicians. So if we do a claim of right and they ignore it like you're concerned with, hey, we've got guys with guns too. And if it comes to a point where that is the case, then that's what we're going to have to do. But I don't see that. If we can prove that we have that right as remedy, then that's what's going to cause the cops to say, holy mackerel, we better smarten up. And we do have that power. Anyone here can stand up and claim and act as a peace officer. Read the sections carefully. You could hire me as a peace officer. I could lay claim I am now a peace officer, and if they tried coming and
and interfering with what I was doing, it would be them interfering with a peace officer. Now, they're peace officers, but they're also statute enforcement officers or policy enforcement officers. What they are doing is they're enforcing a policy and then claiming they're acting as a peace officer, but the moment they breach the peace, the moment they operate with fraud, gross negligence, if they're using extortion or duress, they're no longer enjoying the protection of peace officer status. We're going to have to play very carefully with this because, as you said, there's people out there with guns, they like their power, and it has to come in a way where the change has to be inclusive. They have to see benefit to themselves. And what we're doing is very much like trying to take a bone away from a snarling dog. You better have a Scooby snack or two. Okay, folks, one more little story and then I'm going to go. I just want to tell you a little story about the other day I met this beautiful woman, and she told me she was a vegetarian. I said, "Oh, you're vegetarian. Will you go oats with me?" Get it? Oats out? I play with words. I thought it was pretty good. But she was quick. She said, "But I barely know you." I said, "Wait a minute. So what? Let us remain here and chat. Peas?" She said, "Well, okra, if you insist. I guess it's the yeast I can do. Shall I continue, or should I move onions to other things?" So I'm asking her out. She says, "Well, Rob, do you even drive? Do you have a car? Do?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Is it big?" I said, "No." She said, "Oh, not mushroom." I said, "No, but at least I'm tired of spinach." So she agreed to go out with me. I thought that was great. I'm waiting for her in this little basement restaurant. It was dark and damp. It was kind of like a celery. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for her. Finally, she turnips. Boy, did she look radishing. Beautiful face, little mini skirt. I was thinking, boy, she's cute up there. I wonder if she's cucumber there, too. I mean, what a tomato. She looked so good right then, right there. I asked her to marry me. I said, "Come on, let's run off to Vegas, get married. We don't have to tell anyone." She said, "Rob, I can't elope." Well, that made my artichoke because all my hops were squashes. But a little while later, we were smoking a little bit of potato. And she says to me, "You know, Rob, I think I'd rather make it with a panhandler than with my cousin." I said, "What? You'd rather rutabaga than pumpkin?" Well, then she says to me, "Rob, this is going to have to be our last date." I was like, "Why?" She said, "Well, Rob, partially because your car's too small, partially because you're just too damn corny." And I've got to admit, I probably yams. I hope I didn't offend anyone with a cucumber there part, but I figured, hey, at least I left out kumquats. I'm Rob, folks. Thanks for coming out.
Hello and good day. Robert Arthur Menard, your Woodshed News correspondent, responding to correspondence. Due to overwhelming demand for more information concerning the process one uses in order to secure the security of their person, the producers have directed me, your Woodshed News correspondent, to put a presentation together on this topic. I had the opportunity to interview Pavlos Papadakis, one man who is in the process of demanding his security, and I researched the other ways in which people across Canada are demanding what rightfully belongs to them. There seems to be 4 fundamental ways in which one can become a holder of their security certificates. These are all similar in that someone is making a demand for the return of property. They differ only in who is making the demand and who is witnessing this process. The first way is to use a notary public. This, of course, requires a certain level of knowledge about the law and the process of using a claim of right and what is required to demand your property. People have also used this process with people empowered as commissioners for taking oaths and have also secured notices of estoppel barring police from enforcing statutory restraints and limitations on individuals who have made these claims. The second way available would be to use a lawyer, as much the same way one might hire a plumber to fix clogged pipes, even though they know how to do it themselves or can at least flush. They don't want to deal with the crap and can hire someone else to do the dirty work. The problem with this route is you remain ignorant and thus are hardly empowered at all. However, it certainly seems like a possible path. If you pretend that you own stock in any other corporation and your cousin is holding it and refuses to return it to you, could you not hire a lawyer to get it returned? Same concept here would hold true. You can sic a lawyer on them. The third and likely most exciting way is to demand the return of your security when you are in court on other issues, such as traffic tickets or demands made by banks for payments of a mortgage or a loan. This is what Pavlos Papadakis did when a certain bank tried to sue him for outstanding student loans. Recently, Pavlos was spotted in the local area, and I donned my senior Woodshed News hidden camera undercover field investigative reporter glasses and tracked him down, locating him near a favorite fishing spot and beaver dam. Here is a candid interview with Pavlos Papadakis, done to the best of my abilities.
He's going to be holding on to a financial instrument worth a whole lot of money.
In court, like what the judge will want to hear, what the prosecutor will try to do, and a lot of the information is spot on. And lo and behold, one of the first things the prosecutor tried to do was speak to a judge as well as a third party and try to say things about me that were assumptions. If you do allow that, you become assumptive.
My dad told me that if someone calls you a horse, you better stand like a man before they go shopping for a saddle.
That is the exact sentence that I had going into the courthouse. And I really just focused on...
How many times did the prosecutor try doing that?
Exactly 3 times.
And then he stopped.
And as far as I know, I am deterred to make a demand on the record. And he seemed a very peaceful man, a very... wanted to do the right thing, and what happened was...
Did you sense he loved justice?
I did. He tried to test my knowledge of that, and when he did so, he said something that was very poignant, is, I cannot protect you if you go to the courthouse and fall down the stairs. That's not... And I asked him, are you claiming that security person needs protection? And he backed right off. He said, no, I do not. And from that point on...
He didn't want to make that claim?
Absolutely not.
And then did he accept your claim that it was a financial instrument?
He did not rebut it. And I was on the record stating that through my due diligence, research, and reason, I have come to the conclusion that this security person is a financial instrument. And that financial instrument will satisfy the demands of the bank, and I empower him to bring it to the courthouse in order for me to claim it.
How did you explain it to him? Did he accept it? Or?
Yeah, I gave him a great analogy that I'll tell you right now. It's as though you're in a restaurant, right? Imagine if you go to a table, you sit down.
What am I eating?
Well, I would say some sort of a light vegetarian meal.
Will there be cheese?
Absolutely not.
What about bacon?
Possibly. Bacon.
I like vegetarian bacon, but go ahead. I just wanted to try to imagine it properly.
That's right.
Am I eating alone or am I with someone?
No, you're alone.
Damn. Okay.
And anyway, if you have your meal, you order your food, it comes.
How long do I have to wait for my meal?
Probably around 30 to 35 minutes.
That's a long time.
It's a pretty high volume restaurant.
Is it a busy restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
my waitress cute?
It's a waiter.
Damn.
Yeah, a waiter.
Okay.
So anyway,
is he paying off a student loan?
Quite possibly.
Okay.
Quite possibly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just imagining.
Is everything clear enough?
Yes.
Now here we go. So So I order my meal. I eat it. I was very satisfied.
I thought we were imagining I was in the restaurant.
This is my knowledge.
Well, then why do you said imagine you're in the restaurant. You're in a restaurant. You put me there. Otherwise, why would I be imagining you're in the restaurant and care whether or not you're alone enjoying a meal, how long it took, or whether your waitress is cute? So don't ask me to break imagination here, dude.
Apologize for that.
Okay, so I'm in the restaurant. Just stick with me as the subject of the story.
And you order a meal. You come in good time. You eat it. You enjoy it. Everything is satisfactory. And then you ask for the bill. If the waiter does not come and give you the bill, then you cannot pay it. And
that seems fair to me.
Exactly. And the same thing applies for the security of the person. The security of the person is a method to pay the bill. It's as though the wallet was in your coat check. So as the bill came, you want to pay. Sure enough, you ask the waiter or the coat check girl to give you your wallet and you pay for it.
And so your wallet in this analogy, in this metaphor, is your financial security.
That financial security, yeah.
And how much is this thing worth to you?
I have no idea, but I would imagine it's a large amount. It's representative of the total output of the Corporation of Canada at the FCC through things like selling resources.
Well, it's trillions and trillions of dollars.
Apparently is. It apparently is. It's apparently a big amount, and that's why it's so important to us.
If Canada is a corporation, it's one of the richest corporations in the world.
I would find that very, very difficult to rebut.
Pavlos also informed me that he had met with 2 members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and told them about his beliefs and findings. According to him, the fact that there is a company called Canada registered with the Securities Exchange Commission was news to them, and they stated they would look into these developments. I like Pavlos' way a lot, because anyone facing a traffic ticket can demand the return of their security, tying that return to the order or outcome and the powers that be who may be abusing our trust and that they use traffic ordinances for revenue collection and have expanded their mandate unlawfully won't know who will be making these demands. The 4th way would be to go to your Member of Parliament and make your demand there. After all, if anyone should know where that thing is, it is them, and you can certainly empower them to make a demand on your behalf. Although I highly doubt they are holding your security directly, they can make phone calls and demands, they claim they are your representative, and you can empower them with a limited power of attorney to demand for you. And they have an office near you which is very convenient for you when it comes time to picking up your property. Just go to your MP's office and bring your demand notice with clear directions on what you want them to do. Rob sent you.
and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Well, I've got a yearly bus pass. Yeah, yearly bus pass.
Let's see, where'd you get that?
I'm on handicap pension. That's $45 a year, handicap pension.
Because you're an actor?
No, because they think I'm schizophrenic and delusional.
Are you a delusional schizophrenic actor, maybe?
No, I'm misdiagnosed because everything I've seen and told the doctors is true.
What have you seen and told them?
Well, I've told them about mobile recording studios with satellite dishes on the roof that are actually parabolic microphones. So Bruce Springsteen doesn't leave home without the recording studio.
I've seen those.
Yeah, Sheryl Crow's cashing on too.
She is, eh?
Yeah.
That bitch.
Well, she's beautiful, but she's got the trick of the trade, and I think she learned that from Bruce Springsteen.
And what is that trick?
Go to mobile recording studio, bring the studio to an independent artist, and record them playing original material and releasing it on their own.
You told the doctor this, and because of that, he thought you were schizophrenic and delusional?
Yeah. So I took a picture of a camper with a satellite dish on the roof outside my place. So.
And why would this be at your place, so that they can steal your music?
Yeah, I'm a writer. I'm a lyricist, piano player, guitar player, harmonica.
And did Bruce Springsteen steal your music?
Yeah, he records before I can even record. But I've learned the hard way now. The best way to get material down is to just push record. That's the easiest way to do it.
Just what?
Just push record. If Aerosmith doesn't have an album called that, I'm going to come out with it.
Just push record?
Yeah. That's the best way to write. Just stand back and let it all be.
So you just jam record that and call that a record?
A demo, yeah.
Kind of like what we're doing with our camera here.
Yeah, demos. Yeah.
I see. Well, I hope you get some sort of royalty from Bruce Springsteen for stealing your music.
Well, I hope he brings the mobile recording studio. I'm going to get an entertainment lawyer on him. And I'm joining the union, the music union. This is American Federation of Musicians in the United States of Canada, AFM, an abbreviation for the music union. And
do they let drummers join, or is that kind of a bit of an oxymoron?
They let drummers join, but there's not too much work for drummers nowadays. Now it's pre-recorded with drum machines. Barney Bentel and Jack Guppy from Barney Bentel's and the Legendary Arts, they're fired. They're fired.
I would have fired them myself too.
Yeah. He may own Burrard Street and another Bentel tower, but he pissed me off so bad I gave James Colin Nair's number, Barney Bentel's lead guitarist and co-producer's phone number. So Colin James and Colin Nair are working together. They just got out of Greenhouse Studios.
So you're in pretty tight with this crew then?
Well, I just got to get in the union, and I'll make it big, get off handicap pension, and get in with ASCAP in the United States.
What kind of music do you play?
I play original classic rock and roll, or play by ear to my favorite songs on the radio. My favorite station is 100.3 The Q. Yeah.
What about like Cyndi Lauper? Would you do anything like that? Like something poppy?
Sure, I like everybody. Yeah,
I'd do Cyndi Lauper.
Girls just wanna have fun.
Well, here we are, Freddie Free Pickle. One more short pan interview closing up, folks. Thanks for your time.
Great, okay.
That was fucking trippy.